Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Item Breakdowns, a series where we take a look at each item individually and break down their stats, build path, as well as animations you'll expect to see in-game. Today we're going to be taking a look at an AP Mythic item called Luden's Tempest. Now this item provides great wave clear, as well as heavy magic penetration and extra burst damage. So without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. Now taking a look at the basic stats of this item, we see right away that we have 80 ability power, 20 ability haste, which is equal to 17% cooldown reduction, 600 mana, and 6 magic penetration. Now, because this item doesn't have any defensive stats and it exclusively has offensive stats for ability power based champions, we see that between the ability power and the ability haste, this is meant for mages. Now, what the 600 mana tells us is that this item is meant for mana using type mages. So for example, champions like Xerath and Malzahar would benefit from the mana portion of this item, whereas other AP champions like Katarina, Rumble, and Mordekaiser would not. Also, the flat 6 magic penetration suggests that this item is good to build against squishier teams, but we'll get into that when we get to the passive portion. And now, taking a look at the passive portion of this item, it does have one unique passive, and it reads as follows. Unique Echo. Dealing ability damage to an enemy deals 100 plus 10% of your ability power's bonus magic damage to your target and 3 nearby enemies, and grants you 15% bonus movement speed for 2 seconds with a 10-second cooldown. Now, dealing ability damage simply means instead of auto-attacking an enemy, you press QWE or R, and that will proc the splash damage should you hit an enemy. And essentially, the splash damage is good for either in a team fight, it allows your abilities to get extra damage off to other targets, and if and when you're farming, this gives you extra splash damage to push and clear waves faster. Now, because this is a mythic item, it does have a mythic passive attached to it, and it reads as follows. Empowers each of your other legendary items with 5 magic penetration. Now, with the basic formula of 1 mythic boots plus 4 legendaries, by late game, you'll have an extra 20 magic penetration. Now, I did mention before that with the 6 magic penetration this item already grants, with 4 legendaries, you'll get 26 total magic penetration. But what essentially this means is Luden's has a counterpart called Liandry's Anguish, which its damage passive actually does burn damage and reduces magic resist, rather than giving your champion flat magic penetration. So essentially what this means is when it comes to the mage that you play and you look at other team comps, in the context of a team comp that you're against that is tankier, you'll want to build Liandry's, but in the context of a team comp that is squishier or maybe only has 1 tank, you would want to build Luden's instead, because your champion is going to deal more damage with the magic penetration versus a tankier team, which is going to 1% max health burn damage. And as always, because this is a mythic item, you are limited to 1 mythic, which means once you build Luden's, you cannot build any other mythic items, only boots and legendaries. So now that we've covered the basic stats for this item, I want to get into the proper build path and look at the order in which you build the epics that build into Luden's Tempest into the actual mythic item. So the first item that we're going to buy is Lost Chapter. This item gives us 40 ability power, 300 mana, 10 ability haste, which is equal to 9% cooldown reduction, and has a passive called Enlighten. Upon leveling up, this restores 20% of your maximum mana over 3 seconds. Now, we build this first versus the Blasting one, because the Blasting one only gives us 1 stat for 850 gold, and that is 40 ability power. However, with the Lost Chapter, even though it is a little bit more expensive, it gives us 3 more stats and gives us mana sustain in lane when we're farming and trading with another champion. So we want to go Lost Chapter first, then we build our Blasting Wand for 850 gold, and once those 2 items are complete, plus 1250 additional gold, we will have Luden's Tempest completed. So now that we've covered the appropriate build path of the epic items that build into the mythic of Luden's Tempest, I want to get into the animations and visuals that you will expect to see in game. So starting with the Lost Chapter passive, you can see here with Xerath, I've drained his mana pool in the practice tool, and thus when I level up, you can see that he gets a blue animation around him and he regens mana over 3 seconds. When you level up, this animation, as well as the increase in mana in your mana bar, will tell you that Lost Chapter is proccing. And now taking a look at the passive portion of Luden's Tempest once it's fully built, the first thing I want to look at is the splash damage portion. So you can see here that when Xerath fires an ability and it hits one of the enemy dummies, you see these 3 electrical sparkles pop off of the first enemy hit. I would like to note real quick that the first enemy hit is where the splash damage is going to come from. Anyway, you can see here that when these sparkles come off from the first champion hit, they spread over to the other 3 targets, dealing their damage, as well as if they're hit from the ability that Xerath fires when it's AoE, they'll take damage from both sources if they're in the line of fire. And now taking a look at the movement speed portion of the passive of Luden's Tempest, you can see here that when Xerath procs the item, he gets what looks like to be the ground being carved up under him. And so when you see that when Xerath is moving, as well as any other mage that builds this item, you'll know that the movement speed portion is procced for 2 seconds, and thus it looks like while he's walking, he's kicking up leaves, dirt, and other debris from the ground below him. Well guys, that's all I have for you today. If you're looking for a good mythic option on the mage that you're playing, between Mana Sustain and Magic Penetration, for burst damage against squishy team comps, I would definitely look into picking up Luden's Tempest as a go-to option for your mage. Well guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit me up on Twitter, and for some awesome video game photography, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. And as always guys, we will see each other again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day.